Hey, good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? This is Average Discussion. Thank you for joining me in Studio F350 today, as I am in a different vehicle. This one's not as well insulated, so you might hear some more things in the background. Today is Tuesday, March 5th. 2024. The temperature here is negative 666 degrees because, well, hell has frozen over, guys, and the meta universe was snapped out of oblivion by Thanos this morning, causing us to shift into a different paradigm of reality. Yeah, that's the big topic news for today. I think you can get back in now, but I wouldn't trust it. You can't trust it. There's going to be somebody there fishing. The Labor Department released some information this morning that unemployment requests by women rose 666% this morning because bad bitches everywhere were unable to be, quote, bad bitches. So they didn't know what to do, But the Labor Department also released another stat that said productivity was up 666% as well, because employees had nothing better to do but to actually do their fucking jobs. So, crazy day. I think the worst of it is over. TikTok was immediately flooded with conspiracy theories because apparently today is something called Super Tuesday. I was unaware of this term. Never heard it before in my life. Doesn't mean it wasn't a thing, but I'm just going to put it up there with snow squalls and atmospheric rivers. Just things that I've just heard for the first time in like the last 12 months. I'm really starting to get more on board with those butterfly effect, or not necessarily Mandela effect, Mandela effect conspiracy theories, because there's just a whole lot of things that I feel like I should have known that apparently I don't. And, you're probably listening to this too and been like, yeah, no shit, dude. We've all been saying that in the background every time you put out an episode. But that's besides the point. So if you were unaware, apparently there was huge issues with the meta universe this morning. I can't say that it really affected my life all that much, but I did find it ironic that I spent more time on social medias because the major social media platforms were down. I was super curious what was going on, and I'm here to watch the world burn. So it was really cool to see all the instantaneous content creators just looking for their momentary 15 seconds of fame, because I think it was about 60 minutes that the sites were down or something like that. I don't really know all that much. If there's one thing that I'm prepared for, it's for my information to be stolen. I willfully get into these platforms knowing that that's an inherent risk. And, so at the end of the day, if something negative happens as a result of that, I have nobody to blame but myself for willfully going into those. And I've never been concerned about them, because I'm not sitting here in Studio F350 plotting the revolution. You know what I mean? So I'm not concerned about China being able to track my data to know how many times I go to Walmart in a week. There's just certain things that don't bother me. Now, obviously, like, bank accounts getting hacked and stuff like that can be pretty detrimental. But I'm if you want my browser history, that's on you. You know what I mean? So, I'm not concerned about it. You know what I'm saying? And it's weird to me the amount of people that want to partake in these types of platforms and sites and things like that that are so God-fearing of the idea that there's a potential for their information to get out there. And what's more interesting is when a new one comes out, everybody pretty much flocks to the older ones as if they believe that those are somewhat more secure. Listen, if I'm being honest, I probably trust TikTok more than I trust anything Meta does. They're so big, and I know that they're encompassed with the federal government to some degree. I just feel like anything Meta does is actually probably a higher probability that they're going to release some of your information. That's just my opinion. But it's funny because, people are okay with Facebook, but, they're like, oh, no TikTok. As if Facebook is some kind of better, more holier than thou, divine style, platform. So it's always interesting to me how people feel about that, and then they come out with this stuff. And like I said, what do you want to track? You want to track? Because I think, what was I talking about on the episode the other day? The cars, right? Where the Biden administration was going to put a stop to these smart cars coming out of China because their concern is that, they could be hijacked and that China's going to get your data and stuff. And again, like my first thought is, what are they going to get? They're going to get my place of employment because I go back and forth. So you're going to see how many times I go to work, and you're going to see how many times I go to Walmart or some fast food place or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not getting coordinates to underground secret bunkers. You know what I mean? Like, if we get to that point, I'm going to have to dig one in the moment. So, I'm not prepared for that world, and I'm not trying to hide that world. So my first thought was like, I'm not concerned about this at all. And if that's their tactic to wage war is to, go into this and shut down all the cars, well then, hey, I guess we cross that bridge when we get there. If we can, of course, they might shut down our ability to do so. But yes, so from what I understand though, bad bitches out there, if you're listening, you should be able to go promote your feed or whatever it is that you do. Pretty scary though. You almost had to find a real skill set, not a God-given featured one, right? So, pretty scary for that demographic of the labor force. Pretty terrifying. Pretty terrifying. It's funny because, I recently started using Instagram a lot more because I find that it's very easy to promote and kind of get creative with your promotion, in terms of, what I do here with the podcast. And so I've had it for a long time, but I've very rarely ever used it. It just wasn't my thing. I enjoy reading what people have to say, and I didn't get the same vibe from like things like Instagram, right? So I was never really into it. And then, lo and behold, I finally get into it and I start using it a lot to advertise this. And now I'm like, oh shit, here we go. No, it's interesting. And I think the overwhelming fear that it created. Now, some of the conspiracy stuff that I'm going to talk about it. Okay. Like I'm not sure how much I buy into it, but they do have a point. I talk about coincidental timing all the time. And apparently today is some big day in the political world where your vote basically can have a huge determining factor of who's potentially going to win the November election, right? At least that's something that I saw, right? And so the conspiracy going around is that this was a planned shutdown, and that it's to stop people from being able to spread the word. And then, I saw this guy showed a list of all these major websites that were having issues on Today in particular, and how they relate to public platforms and things like that. So I'm not going to say that there's nothing there. Okay, it is very coincidental timing in that regard. I mean, this is a big election coming up. It's like a rerun of 2020, and it's really disgusting. And so like I'm not going to say there's nothing there. Timing is very interesting. I will give you that 100%. The timing is very interesting. And if it was a 24-hour thing, I think I might be a little bit more inclined to believe those, right? But where it was a 60-minute thing, I think it's far more likely that there was some nefarious hacking going on, that they basically just pulled the power cord before anything could get out of control. That's what I think happened. And we'll never know, because they're never going to release that information. They're gonna come up with something simple and to try to eliminate some of the fear, because again, this is a public traded company, so there is stock investments and things like that they do have to consider. So they're not going to put out the nitty gritty of what it really was. So we're all going to be left in speculation, unless of course there's some kind of whistleblower or something like that comes out and says, no, I was a part of this and this is what really happened. But even then, that guy will probably mean an untimely demise in a traffic accident, I'm sure. So, but if you weren't aware, good for you, right? If you weren't aware, good for you. And if you're just finding out, then good for you. You know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure everybody knows about it. It's all over the news. But I can't help but talk about it. I didn't want to, but here I am. I'm talking about it. I almost fell into the same, give me my 15 minutes of fame. I had this whole video going for my spiel that I said earlier about the labor department and, the bad bitches thing. I thought that was a pretty classy joke. I really don't mean any offense to anybody. But if you took it, maybe, I guess maybe you found the shoes that fit, I guess. But, so I wasn't going to do it. I really was fighting the urge to just talk about it. And lo and behold, here I am. I'm talking about it. So, but that's the big headline that I'm sure everybody is well aware of at this point. So what you might not know, though, is that, this was for yesterday. So yesterday I was going to do an episode and I don't know, man. I hit this really weird funk. My job is starting to get to me on a more mental level for some stuff that's going down. And I had all this ambition in the morning. And then by the time I got here, I was so unstimulated mentally that I just kind of ended up in this funk and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I just couldn't find the enthusiasm. But now, thanks to the meta universe crashing down, Thanos did his thing or something like that. I am rejuvenated. I'm in a pretty good mood. It's been fun watching the chaos ensue on the non-universe social medias, right? But so check this out, right? Humpback whales were photographed having sex for the first time. And not only were they photographed having sex, it was gay sex at that. This is straight out of the article, guys. NBC. The sexual encounter, which occurred in the waters west of the Hawaiian Islands of Maui in January 2022, was detailed in a new report. I highlighted some of my favorite things about this. So, to put a little bit of context here, okay, you've got these two whales, all right, and it's literally like the fins are holding the one. He's just slapping that ass. You know what I mean? It's a really great. It's a really great picture. Anyways, the author said that the whales were observed for approximately 30 minutes and that the encounter took place roughly 15 feet below the surface. He said that they immediately knew they captured a once-in-a-lifetime encounter. That's right. That's right. We realized pretty quickly that there was a scientific significance to it. Even if there was no articles published or nothing ever came of it, we knew that it was important to the scientific community and those who were studying the whales just because of unique behavior. Now, here's my only thing with it, is that I am literally picturing right now, I'm picturing this right now, that there's a bunch of people watching a camera for 30 minutes of these two whales just bang each other out. And then the part where they're like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime encounter, and we knew that this had scientific significance. And I'm really struggling with how to correlate the significance of this scientifically. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's been pretty well documented that in a lot of mammal species, same-sex intercourse is not really that uncommon, right? So with that knowledge, okay, maybe they didn't know that these creatures did that. Maybe that's the scientific significance. But outside of, in my opinion, in my mind, outside of trying to justify a social norm that us humans are struggling with, I don't see the scientific significance in this. I just don't. I don't. Call me crazy. I'm not sure where. And I'm without a doubt, I'm not a scientist, so without a doubt, there potentially could be, and I don't know what those are. I'd just be curious what those are. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm just struggling as a person who's not a scientist watching whales bang each other for 30 minutes on camera and then smiling and getting all excited about it. I'm struggling with that. That's the part I'm struggling with. But yeah, so if you weren't aware, there you go. Careful what you get into 15 feet below the surface there. Okay. So if that's not strange enough, though, in more animal news, stingray virgin pregnancy may have a delightfully unusual scientific explanation. The surprise pregnancy of Charlotte, a stingray living in a tank without any male rays, has captivated people across the world and stirred a sudden interest in, I'm going to butcher this word, parthenogenesis, a scientific term that essentially means virgin birth. So, they go on to talk about how it's rare, but not, it's not a new phenomena in aquatic species that this happens, and other species as well. But I just found it extremely interesting. We got two gay whales going at it, and now all of a sudden the stingrays are like, you know what? I'm just going to make a baby on my own. So moving on. So fury after the Exxon chief says public is to blame for climate failures. Now this one was interesting to me because I've been seeing a lot of things primarily related to electric cars that I've kind of been following because I'm interested in that kind of stuff, right? And so this one was interesting to me. And it goes on to say, he says, in an interview published on Tuesday, Woods, who's the guy for Exxon, right? He says, he argued that big oil is not primarily responsible for the climate crisis. The dirty secret nobody talks about is how much all of this is going to cost and who's willing to pay for it. Now, in all of this, he's talking about the reforms to the energy sector, I believe. The people who are generating those emissions need to be aware of and pay the price for generating those emissions. This is ultimately how you solve the problem. So he's basically saying it's our fault. He's like, no, this isn't our problem to solve. It's your guys' problem to solve. You're the ones out there burning the stuff. We just make it for you to burn, and then we just, lobby the governments and create all the infrastructure and hold all the land and do all these things to just basically force you to buy our product because we've done a great job over the last century making our entire societal system dependent on transportation, which ultimately is dependent on, at the moment, oil. So there's that. But he goes on to say, we have opportunities to make fuels with lower carbon in it, but people aren't willing to spend the money to do that. Experts say Wood's rhetoric is a part of a large attempt to skirt climate accountability. And this guy who's in the article goes on to says, it's like a drug lord blaming everyone but himself for drug problems, said Gernot Wagner, not really sure, Gernot Wagner, a climate economist at Columbia Business School. A 2021 analysis also demonstrated that Exxon had downplayed its own role in the climate crisis for decades in public-facing messaging. The playbook is this: sell consumers a product that you know is dangerous while publicly denying or downplaying those dangers. Then, when the dangers are no longer deniable, deny responsibility and blame the consumer, said Naomi Oreskes, a Harvard historian of science and co-author of the 2021 paper. In the Tuesday interview, however, Woods says the world waited too long to develop carbon-free technologies. He said Exxon recognized the need to decarbonize and that a carbon tax would help achieve this, while also defending the oil giant's comparatively meager investment in renewable energy, pointing to focus upon more nascent technologies such as carbon capture and hydrogen fuels. For decades, they told us that the science was too uncertain to justify action. That it was premature to act. And that we could and should wait and see how things develop, said Oreskes. Now the CEO says, oh dear, we've waited too long. If this isn't gaslighting, I don't know what is. And I kind of feel that, right? Like, I understand the business side of it, right? So if you're looking at it and you're like, okay, we have to have all this different infrastructure, and we have to pay for all these people to study this stuff and find alternative means and develop all these things, right? I totally understand that part, and that is going to cost money. And I totally get that. Like you have to answer to your shareholders, you have to answer to your board members. All those things play a role. I totally get that. But I also understand where this person's coming from, where they're, oh, we waited too long. Well, what do you mean we waited too long? Like, you're in the energy sector, not me. You know what I mean? My job is to get to my job, which is not in the energy sector. And in order to do that, I have to do so within the confines of the society that we've allowed to be developed. Now, what I will say is that, yes, we have to take ownership as everyday citizens of our role and what we've allowed to happen. Okay? But the bottom line is this, is that pretty much everybody alive today, plus or minus maybe a few presidents of countries, weren't around for any other time, right? And we've all been born into this. We've all had to adapt to this. And it's not anything that we had control of implementing, right? So now we're all trying to fix a problem or a mistake of those who came before us, right? Which is, I guess, the telltale story of anybody in human history, right? Like this is going to be a thing no matter what country, what generation, what culture you grow up in, right? You're constantly having to correct the past to get the future, right? But we do have to take responsibility for it. We continue to play this game, and we continue to play this game because of the fears of what it would mean if we stopped playing the game, right? If we stop going to work and all of a sudden life does become difficult, then we do have to learn how to be independent. And we also know the side effects of that, right? Like the illness, the illiteracy rate's going to go through the roof. The education's going to drop, right? Safety becomes a serious concern, especially for anybody located in any area with significant population. Because I don't know who said it. I heard it on a Tech Nine song. I don't know that it was him that came up with it, but absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And I've heard that, and it's absolutely true, right? If there's one thing that you can count on, is that in the absence of authority and power, there's going to be a group of people who are going to attempt to fill that void. And the methods in which they're going to choose to do that in are not necessarily what we would call sophisticated or ideal, right? And so because of that, we continue to play these games, right? And this is kind of the downside of that, is that, okay, this guy's telling us, hey, nobody wants to pay for that. So, what do you want us to do? It's not our fault. You guys are cheap asses. If there's one industry that I feel very, very confident, that if I feel very confident that they're not struggling financially, it's the oil industry. You've had a monopoly on this for well over a century. It's just one of those things. Don't give me the spiel of cost. I'm not saying that it doesn't cost them a lot of money annually to operate their business. I'm not saying that at all. I'm sure it is quite the unrealistic amount of money to operate their businesses. I don't doubt that for a minute. But I also know that they're generating a shit ton of money. So, I'm looking for this part. Sorry. You probably thought this all just stopped out. No, so I'm looking for the specific part in it. I don't know that I screenshotted it. So, but there was a part in there where they were talking about how they're making all these record profits and stuff, right? So like that's an argument that really, like, you can't tell somebody that at a bar, because they're going to punch you in the fucking throat. You know what I mean? Like, that was pretty bold and pretty ignorant of him, I think, to come out and blame the people who buy his product, and he can only do that because he knows we have to regardless. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, when you know that, you can say whatever the hell you want to say, and this guy knows that. This guy just insulted every single one of us. Every single one of us. He just insulted us. But shit, we're still gonna have to get gas. We're still gonna have to put oil in our cars. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's only getting away with that because the world that we live in allows him to get away with that. Really interesting. You know, I don't I don't know. It's again, I feel the way that I feel about it is that this is out of our control. Like, we arrived in this problem, and it's up to us to fine tune it or change it. And the problem is that there's so much that's dominated by the energy world, that it's in a lot of ways it's out of our control. There's because you're right, or you know, kind of like I stated earlier, like, yeah, there's things that we could do to have a serious impact, but not without willing to take a huge leap of personal sacrifice, right? I mean, the only way to really do it is for all of us to go home right now and park our cars, kill the main power to the entire house, and sit in the dark for a week and don't go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, that's really all we can do. And that comes at such a sacrifice to us, and it's such a penalty to us that I don't know that I'm willing to do it. And I don't imagine that the amount of people that you would need to be on board with that are even willing to do that. You know, and I think a lot of that is because you know, it's not like people want the world to end. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just want things to be more realistic, I think. You know, and maybe selfishly, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't take that out of the equation. Maybe selfishly, but hell, man, like, people are just sick of this shit. You know, you see all this corruption, you see all of the lies, the bold, blatant lies to our face, the abuse of, you know, they tell us to be, oh, you can't afford a house because you drink you go to Starbucks, which is complete bullshit, right? We all know it's fucking bullshit. Now, is there some truth in that statement? Sure, right? Like, you can make the argument that, yeah, you'd be able to save a lot more money if you cut out certain expenses in your life. Yes, that's a very real, yes, that part is true. But that's not the reason that most people can't afford a house. Most people can't afford a house because they can't even get approved for it. Because they're paying so much in rent. They're paying more in rent than people are paying for mortgages. They can't afford to save up the money. Regardless of, like, they shouldn't have to sacrifice a Starbucks coffee to be able to save enough money. And not to mention the fact that you're not going to save, it's going to take you decades to save that kind of money. The real problem is the cost of rent. Like, that's the real fucking problem. But it gets, you know, it just gets shifted off to these secondary problems, and people trying to, you know, eliminate the thought process. And again, is that to say that there's not benefit to be gained from cutting out some of these expenses in your life? No, absolutely true. Yes, that is absolutely true. But let's be realistic and understand that that's not the entirety of the problem. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so over these thought processes that are generational. You know, you can't compare what a 20-year-old is going through today, or a 30-year-old is going through today, to what a 20 or 30-year-old person was going through in the 60s. You just can't do it. Or the 70s, or even the 80s. Hell, I don't even know if you can compare it to the 90s and the early 2000s. Like, what is going on today is substantially different. I don't know that it's more difficult. I think it can be in its own ways, but it's definitely different. And trying to compare those two is just, it's crazy to me. And it's so crazy that back in the 70s, I was reading through, so there's a site you can go to. It's kind of cool. It's an archive of Time magazine, right? And so I was looking through some articles from the 70s because I came across this picture, and it was trying to basically say that the narrative has changed, right? And they show four Time magazine covers from the 70s, right? And so 1973, there was one that said the big freeze, and it's this person sitting in a chair, he's all bundled up, iced over, and then, the paper shows all the cost of everything going up. And then in 77, it says the big freeze again, and the guy in a ski mask, and everything's just frozen over. And then in 1978, I believe it was, how to survive the coming ice age. And then in 1979, I can't really read what it says, but it's another cold themed thing. They're all huddled up looking at a TV with a fireplace on it. If that's not the most 2024 thing, right? Like, they don't build houses with fireplaces anymore. They just give you an app to where you can turn it on. But then it goes into the global warming scare, where it says in 87 the heat is on, and then in 2001 global warming, 2006 another heating thing, 2007 global warming. And so I was interested in that, and I was looking into it, and I came across some of these articles from the 70s, and it was kind of interesting to see some of the things, right? And this is what I mean by the generational thinking, right? Of things that they were taught that still gets pushed over into today. And I'm sure we're going to do the exact same thing when we're in their situation. But it provided some clarity to me, right? And so I screenshotted one of the pages, and they were talking about energy or whatever from one of these 1970s Time articles. And apparently there was billboard signs that said 50 miles per hour saves 2 million gallons of gas a year on this parkway. So they're basically saying, like, hey, drive this speed and your car won't burn through that much, and we're going to save X amount of gallons of gasoline. That was their campaigning, right? And it made so much sense to me, because there's a lot of older people who live in my community, and I've heard it forever, right? That, like, if you maintain, a certain speed, your fuel mileage is peak. And I believe that. I do believe that. But I don't think in today's modern cars, at least, that's as much of a dramatic savings as some people think that it is. Sure. Maybe in some of your older cars, the bigger engines. Sure. Absolutely. But I think in your smaller car engines, the weight ratio and everything like that, you're still getting pretty good gas mileage, whether you're going 60 or 80, right? Plus or minus maybe a few tenths of a mile or something, right? But this literally outlined why all these older people in my community are dead set on this. They won't go. There's two roads that lead out from the town that I live in. One goes to another town. The other takes you to the interstate. And one road is 60 miles an hour. The other is 65. And the amount of people that go 50 to 55 miles an hour on that road for no apparent reason. I'm not talking like inclement weather or anything like that. Just no apparent reason at all. The amount of people that go 50 to 55 miles an hour is astounding. It's absolutely astounding to me. And it's super fucking annoying because you can't pass them. And you're just stuck there. And it's always bothered me. But now I kind of get it, right? Like, I read this sign, and this was literally posted because, I wasn't around for it, obviously. But apparently the gas shortage was a big deal, and they were looking for all these ways to try to save as much gas as they could, because I'm sure that was the spiel, right? That we're going to run out of gasoline by 1985. We're going to be out of gasoline if we don't change something now. I'm sure if I dug deep enough, there was probably a statement similar to that, right? And here we are at 2024, and the amount of it's not the concern; it's the cost of it that's the concern. Right, so I really thought that was interesting. And then there's December 1973. Oil has become a race against time. No one wanted to believe that an energy crisis was coming. It is now a reality. Oil is the key. It provides 75% of the world's energy and will until practical substitutes are available. But oil today is being consumed faster than new reserves are being found. Right, so this is from 1973, okay? Straight out of Time magazine, December edition, December 3rd. We are also working on petroleum substitutes, including an FMC process called co-gas to produce pipeline gas from coal, right? So it's very interesting to me because there was a lot of talk about coal in these 1970s articles. And, here we are, fast forward to 2024. And what's the big thing that they're saying is the devil, the coal. So the thing that saved them and got all these people rich and got all these businesses off the ground, and politicians, I'm sure, made their fucking careers off of it. It's now the enemy. So now we have a new one that's coming out. But what I gathered, and even back as far as 1923, guys, they were talking about coal. And that's very intriguing to me. Very intriguing to me. They were also talking about the border issues. It's super strange how it's like, it's always the same fucking problems, guys. Energy, border. Energy, border. Energy, border. Because literally, 1923, the Mexican border is literally a topic. And they're talking about the border security and things like that. Like, it's literally been a thing forever. And that's why if you listen to my other episode, I said if they actually gave a shit, they would have done something. Clear back 100 fucking years ago, they were having the same conversations, flooding the same conversations. 100 years ago. It's crazy. But I thought there was going to be some more significance to, that picture that I was talking about that I found. But really, the cooling thing appears to be related to energy costs. So I don't think that, I feel like that meme was a bit misleading because they were trying to just say that, they're lying to you. It's all a game. But the cold things were related to the energy cost of being able to heat people's homes. That was a bigger thing. So, but either way, I mean, it's super interesting to me. It's super interesting. And I don't know how to really feel about it. I mean, I do feel like we're being lied to on a lot of things, and maybe not even lied to, but definitely manipulated. I definitely feel like the information being given to us is subjective to who's giving it, because it's so hard to trust these people. It's so hard to trust them. Like, for all I know, they're giving me dead facts that are there's no debate about, there's no speculation about. For all I know, that's what they're doing. But I cannot trust these fucking people, and I don't feel like I'm the only one. And I think that's what's really causing a lot of issues right now with all of us in general, in terms of how we perceive this information. You know what I mean? Because then you got the guys who do actually study this stuff, and they're looking at all of us like we're ignorant assholes, and they have no respect for us, right? And then somebody like myself's going to look at that and be like, hey, you know what, dude? Fuck you. Like, you may be smart, but I'll beat the shit out of you. You know what I mean? And so it just like creates this dynamic of conflict that I don't think needs to be there. But it's all based off of trust, right? And yeah, I personally have such a hard time trusting any source of information that tells me anything. And I think that's why people latch on to things like, the TikToks and things like that, because we're actually more inclined to believe each other, even though we're all probably fucking wrong. And we all know that we're probably wrong. That's probably the best part about it. And it's so strange, right? Because we have such a distrust for the established, I guess you could say, authority figures on the matter, right? Like, we distrust them to such a degree that we are willing to listen to some guy who is literally missing teeth and hasn't shaved in 8 months, walking through the tree line. Like, we're more inclined to believe that individual, when I would say a decade ago, that would have been the person that you ignored. Because you're like, there's no way. Like, dude, you don't know a fucking thing that you're talking about. Probably maybe even a little bit longer than a decade, but because I guess that wasn't that long ago. But it's absolutely crazy, like the distrust is so real. It's so real. It's absolutely crazy. And I think that's why people latch on to that kind of stuff, And the unfortunate thing, again, like I said, is that, people feel the way that they do about those people. They get out in public and they start slandering everyday people, because if you were one of those people that bought into some of that, what was it, the QAnon stuff, I think that's what it was called. If you were somebody who bought into that, and now you're you've had this moment of clarity, right? And maybe you don't feel the same way. Well, you were literally belittled on a public platform nationwide, And some cruel things were said. And then same thing if like you were one of those supporters, right? If you went out and you criticized some of those people, they attacked you too, right? It's so strange, but then, we're going to air this whole thing about Johnny Depp and his wife going through a defamation case. You know what I mean? Our entire country's based off defamation. I mean, look around you. Everybody just talks shit about everybody. We are the worst fucking people on the planet. 90% of the time. We are the most ignorant people on the planet. All these religions and these concepts that tell you to, have love for each other, right? Like, not just Christianity. You look at any of those people with all those crystals, they've got all those crystals and they're still so fucking negative. It's the strangest thing, right? All we do is we just judge. Everybody's guilty of it. Every single person is guilty of it, outside of probably like 5 people that aren't ever going to hear this because they've completely detached themselves from the rest of the world, right? Like we have such a tendency to be great people, but we end up constantly just being fucking assholes all the time, going against the very morals of which we try to preach. Criticizing and judging all these people all the fucking time, publicly at that, and then have the nerve to broadcast this entire celebrity fucking divorce defamation bullshit as if we don't do the same fucking thing. You can turn on the TV at any point throughout the day and all you're going to hear is people bad-mouthing somebody else. And that for some reason is deemed okay, and we're selective on when we decide that, okay, we're going to call this defamation, but it's literally nicer than anything that you just got done saying about somebody else. It's the strangest thing. Like, it really blows my mind. It blows my mind. And I've probably been guilty of it myself. This is why I say, like, I don't understand. I can't wrap my finger around what that concept is, but it's definitely a real thing. You know what I mean? And it's really strange. It's super strange, to be honest with you. So again, gay wells, scientific value there. Hopefully by the time I'm done recording this, I feel safe enough to log back into the Meta universe to advertise it, because that's pretty much my primary source of advertising. Because, there's probably a lot of people on X today, but normally I don't get much love over there. So if you've got a Twitter or X account, please head over to Average Discussion at AVG Discussion. Follow that just in case the Meta universe goes down, so you can still get updated when I put out other material. Okay? Yes. I'll be lucky if I get 1 follower on that. And it's okay. That's not why I do it. I do this because 1, it's good for me, and 2, I hope that I'm finding people that are interested in it. You know what I mean? I would like to interact. So, but, with the Meta universe down, here I am talking to myself. So I'm like I said, I'm pretty sure it's back up. From what I understand, it was like 30 to 60 minute ordeal. Not even long enough for 90% of the content creators to figure out that there was a problem and have their 15 minutes of fame. So that's that. That's kind of the news headlines for today, guys. The episode that I wanted to do. I mean, I could keep talking, but we're 43 minutes into this. Well, plus or minus some. So I've been doing this thing where I just edit the recording and cut out all the stuff. So I actually tried to start this about 3 times and I fudged it up every single time. So it's probably not, it should be about 43 minutes. I didn't mess up that much, but I could keep talking. What do you guys want to talk about? Nobody knows because this isn't a live show. But you could, hey, you can, since Metaverse is down, you can email me, averagediscussion@gmail.com, all one word, averagediscussion@gmail.com. You can tell me some things you'd like to hear. Maybe even be on the show. Once the Metaverse is back, I do know that I can video call somebody on that, record that, and detach the audio from it. So we could definitely get together, have a conversation. I'm not opposed to it. So if you'd like to be on the show and talk about something, hit me up. Let's figure it out. I'm all about it. I'm all about it because I literally, my family is what I look forward to every single day. Outside of that, when we're all out doing our thing at our jobs, our schools, whatever, I have nothing to fucking do. So I have nothing to look forward to while we're all out doing our daily live things. So As long as it doesn't impede on the time that I spend with my family, I'm down to do whatever. So yeah, hit me up. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk. This is average discussion, for Christ's sake. Hopefully I didn't offend the gods there. But yeah, this is average discussion. Let's do it. Why not? Why not? I mean, the world's already ending. Metaverse went down today, guys. I really enjoy saying that. I don't think I've ever said meta as much as I have today. I'm really enjoying saying that. But hey, 45 minutes in, I guess we'll call that a wrap. Like I said, please reach out to me. As always, guys, you can find me on Facebook when it's running, facebook.com/average discussion, Instagram, average discussion when it's running. I am on Threads. I just found out about Threads, by the way. It's pretty much just Twitter. And I think I got on a little too late because apparently there was supposed to be this big thing and then it crashed and then everybody's like, this is shit. And now nobody uses it. But, hey, I am on there. It's just another platform to advertise on. So I'll be there. If that's where you're at, come see me. It's cool. On X, where I listen to seductive music and touch myself. No, I'm just kidding. On X, formerly known as Twitter, at AVG Discussion. Like I said, as always, you can contact me directly at averagediscussion@gmail.com. That's all one word, averagediscussion@gmail.com. That's where you'll want to send all your hey, you like this, don't like that, bitches, gripes, complaints, death threats, whatever it is. Send them there so that they come straight to me. I don't want there to be any, sorry, I didn't get your death threat, man. Metaverse was down, so my bad. I would have made sure I was at the bombing location. So, send them to me directly so I'll get them. That's all I'm asking. Head over to YouTube, youtube.com. The channel's Average Discussion. I usually post the episodes up there in video format for your listening pleasure because you don't want to see me. I promise you don't want to see me. So there's that. Let's see, is there anything else I'm missing? No, I don't think so. Again, I'm dead serious. If you'd like to talk about some stuff or maybe be on the show with me or on an episode with me or whatever, please reach out to me. Let's get it figured out. averagediscussion@gmail.com is the best way to reach me. But obviously, when Metaverse is working, those work just fine too. So if you're interested, please do reach out to me. I'm interested to communicate with people and just talk about everyday stuff and get to know new people. So let me know. So as always, guys, I always like to wrap it up with this. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. I hope you have a wonderful day. And until next time, I'm out.